Private versus public prisons. South Africa, which is better? What happens when prisons are run like businesses? Private prisons, designed to be efficient and cost-effective, promise better management and rehabilitation. But do they deliver? In South Africa, where the prison system faces overcrowding, poor conditions, and a high crime rate, this question becomes crucial. Are private prisons the solution, or do they create more problems than they solve? On the flip side, public prisons are rooted in government oversight, but are they capable of meeting the demand in a country grappling with systemic challenges? Today, we explore the battle between private and public prisons in South Africa. Which is truly better for the prisoners, society, and the future of justice? What are private and public prisons? To understand the debate, let's define the two types of prisons. Public prisons are owned, managed, and funded by the government. They operate under the Department of Correctional Services, with taxpayer money supporting their infrastructure and operations. Private prisons, on the other hand, are run by private companies under contracts with the government. These companies handle day-to-day operations, from security to rehabilitation programs, while the government maintains overall oversight. Private prisons are often touted as more efficient due to their business-driven approach, focusing on cost-cutting and innovation. Public prisons, however, emphasize accountability, as they are directly answerable to citizens through elected officials. While both types serve the same purpose, punishing and rehabilitating offenders, their methods and motivations differ significantly. This distinction sets the stage for understanding their pros and cons in South Africa's unique context. Pros of private prisons. Supporters of private prisons argue that they offer significant advantages over their public counterparts. First and foremost, private prisons claim to be cost-effective. By streamlining operations and reducing bureaucracy, they can deliver the same services as public prisons at a lower cost to taxpayers. Secondly, private prisons are often more modern. Companies invest in state-of-the-art facilities, offering better living conditions for inmates. They also tend to focus on rehabilitation, offering programs to help prisoners reintegrate into society. Another advantage is their flexibility. Private companies can quickly adapt to changing demands, such as increasing capacity during overcrowding crises. Finally, competition among private prison operators can drive innovation, encouraging better management practices. In a country like South Africa, where the prison system faces numerous challenges, these benefits make private prisons an appealing option, at least on paper. Cons of private prisons. Despite their promises, private prisons have significant drawbacks. Critics argue that these institutions prioritize profit over people. Since they operate as businesses, cutting costs often comes at the expense of inmate care. Reports of understaffing, inadequate healthcare, and poorly trained personnel are common in private facilities. Another concern is transparency. Unlike public prisons, private operators aren't as accountable to the public, making it harder to monitor their practices. This lack of oversight can lead to human rights abuses. Furthermore, private prisons have a financial incentive to maintain high incarceration rates. In South Africa, where inequality and systemic issues already contribute to over-incarceration, this profit motive raises ethical questions. Critics also point out that private prisons often fail to deliver on their promises of rehabilitation, with recidivism rates comparable to or worse than public prisons. These issues highlight the risks of outsourcing justice to for-profit entities. Pros of public prisons. Public prisons, though criticized for inefficiency, have their strengths. One key advantage is accountability. As government institutions, public prisons are subject to oversight by elected officials and watchdog organizations. This ensures that decisions are made with public interest in mind, not corporate profit. Public prisons also tend to have a broader mandate, focusing not just on punishment but on rehabilitation and societal reintegration. Programs like educational workshops, vocational training, and psychological counseling are often part of the government's correctional strategy. Another strength is their long-term perspective. Unlike private companies, which may prioritize short-term gains, public prisons are designed to serve society in the long run. Finally, public prisons are less likely to cut corners on staffing and training, ensuring a higher standard of care and security. In a country like South Africa, where trust in institutions is critical, public prisons provide a level of transparency and stability that private facilities may lack. Cons of public prisons. Public prisons in South Africa, however, are far from perfect. Overcrowding is a massive issue, with many facilities operating far beyond their intended capacity. This leads to poor living conditions, health risks, and heightened tensions among inmates. Another major problem is underfunding. With limited budgets, public prisons often struggle to maintain infrastructure, hire sufficient staff, and offer rehabilitation programs. Bureaucracy is another concern, slowing down decision-making and innovation. Corruption also plagues some public facilities, with reports of bribery, favoritism, and smuggling tarnishing their reputation. Additionally, public prisons face criticism for failing to reduce recidivism. Many inmates leave prison only to reoffend, highlighting gaps in rehabilitation efforts. These challenges underscore the systemic issues that South Africa's government must address to improve its public prison system. So, which is better for South Africa, private or public prisons? The answer isn't straightforward. Private prisons offer efficiency and innovation but come with ethical concerns and a focus on profit. Public prisons provide accountability and a broader societal focus but struggle with funding and systemic issues. In South Africa, where crime, inequality, and poverty intersect, neither model is without flaws. Experts suggest a hybrid approach, combining the strengths of both systems. For example, private companies could manage some operational aspects while the government retains oversight and accountability. Alternatively, investing in public prisons to modernize infrastructure and expand rehabilitation programs could address their current shortcomings. Ultimately, the goal isn't just to choose between private and public, it's to create a prison system that aligns with South Africa's vision of justice, fairness, and social progress. The debate over private versus public prisons isn't just about cost or efficiency, it's about the kind of society South Africa wants to build. Which do you think offers the best path forward?